Hi, my name is Buxton. From this channel of construction and quantity surveying tutoring, you get to learn construction and estimation in a better way that you'll never find in another channel. And that is why this channel sets the difference. Whatever you've learned in theoretical aspect, this channel brings to you in a way that is well explained in simple terms, and also examples shown in manner that impacts important skills into you as a quantity surveyor. And that is why you need this channel and we need each other. And for that matter, I would ask you to please make the subscription to the channel so that you don't miss any of the videos and the real-time learning tips that this channel has to offer. Please do so if you haven't subscribed. If you have subscribed, I say thank you so much. Please, I'm assuring you that from this channel you'll be able to gain so much skills that you need as a quantity surveyor and also as a building construction estimation professional. So welcome to this beginner series, and today we are going to learn the concept of we are going to learn two things today. One of them is landscaping, and another one is roadworks. Of course, you understand that the rules that we've been breaking down for quite a number of for a couple of episodes now, they are in regard to the standard methods of measurements. And this is an international channel because we have viewers from across the world. So I'm pledging that after the standard methods of measurements, we are also going to look into what we call now the other rules, including the new rules of measurements and standard methods of measurements too, so that we all bring on board all the viewers into this channel, so that we all benefit from it, as you are all intending to. So for today, allow me go straight to what we have to cover, and that is one of them is landscaping. So of course, from the display, what the design that I've displayed at first, it shows you simply what we call a rendering, and a rendering basically now that final look of the design that you are intending to have for you as a client. So this is what we call landscaping. Previously, before you reach here, before you get into this design, you simply have the site. The site, of course, can be of a diverse terrain and topography, for that matter, so that it has got the natural topography of how it's looking like. But then now you as a builder, you normally have to get various ways in which you will you are intending to have the final design. So that is what we call the render. So the render is basically now the final outlook of what you are intending to have in terms of your design. Now for that matter, it's important that we now learn how to estimate the what we call landscaping for a quantity surveyor, and that is why today we are going to learn those two concepts. That is concept one, we are going to learn landscaping, and then two, we are going to do what we call the roadworks. So landscaping generally is basically to beautify. You can define it as just the beautification of the site, of the general site, the slopes, and all that it has, to make it more aesthetically appealing in regard to the construction. So generally, that is what you'd how you can describe landscaping. As usual, from this channel we give you right from the definition vivid descriptions of the concept that we're talking about, and then we also put in place now how you are going to relate what you have in terms of the theoretical description into now estimation as that is concerned. So what I would like to say is that landscaping has got different elements. Okay, it involves various activities, some of which fall under other sections of the standard methods of measurements, most of which we've covered, because you realize that we are almost finishing this these are coverage of the standard methods of measurement. So some of the sections that entail landscaping fall into different parts of the standard methods of measurement. So you realize that you will always be directed to refer to the previous sections in terms of the rules that are applicable for that matter. Now, the first that we'll talk about is the cultivation. Of course, when you have a site, it will be of various, definitely it will be of various cultivations, or let me say landscapes and so on. So as I'm explaining, you find that now you have various activities that you should be doing in regard to landscaping. Now, in the very first, at the onset, of course, there will be a design from the landscape architect, making you the design of how the proposed final outlook of the landscape of that particular site will be looking like. So once you have that, you as a quantity surveyor, it's always good to emphasize that it's important that you have the knowledge of the activities that are going to take place, because at the end of the day, you'll need to interrogate the estimates of that landscaping as an item to be done. In that case, then it's just important that you know how to estimate various aspects of the same. So when you get to a site, of course, you'll find that the site has got, it can have a crazy terrain, so to say, one that will be involving a lot of cut and fill to make up the levels and so on. Once you have that, then it means that we'll be having a concept of what we call excavations or earthworks. So earthworks, we had already covered how to measure them, generally in cubic meters. So the first aspect is the identification of the item that you have. So one of them is excavations. So you should be able to see how much of the excavations is going to be done, and then that is estimated in cubic meters. That is one. Then two is now the cultivation. Okay, if you want to now just till the land or till the soil on which the site is located. So from the bit of cultivation, then you'll do it in square meters. So basically, just to prepare the soil, if you want to plant a given type of cover for the soil, for instance, you want to do seeding or you want to do grass and so on, that will be done in square meters. So that is the estimation rule. Okay, of course, the type and the surface of application will have to be described in terms of what you are intending to cultivate and plant, whatever type of landscaping topic that you want to do. So in that case, then the next rule is now giving you the leverage of, the option of showing now the various the separations, giving different titles in terms of how you want to do the work. Of course, there is mixing of materials, method of application, and method of securing tufts. Okay, so those are now different titles. As you are doing your cultivation, then you can be able to say mixing of materials. Then you describe how that material is going to be mixed. Of course, one that is going to allow the whatever that you are using to grow or to have a proper growth in terms of, because you remember that in diesel landscaping generally, you might be adopting those live plants. Okay, so in that case, now the mixing, you have to describe the mixing, and also the method of application of whatever that you're adding. If it's red soil, if it's manure and so on, you describe that, and also how you are going to secure the tubs in terms of application into the tilled land for that requires the landscape. Then there is another bit here. Work measure shall be excavating or forming pits and trenches and so on. That will be done as items. Okay, so those are items. You just state item 1 or give your description, and then at the point of indicating the unit, then you do it as an item. So those items are also part of the directions of the rules that are provided in terms of how you need to do your estimation in that regard. Okay. Then another one is now protection. Then let me just also present what I was having here. So in this case, you realize that you have different types of plants for this landscape. Okay, so when this is existing, then for instance you need to protect, you can provide a protection for this. You can just maybe make for it a small fence. Okay, you can do it in trees. So those ones are done in terms of items. So you can have just a small fence that are going to prevent, for instance, if you have animals or cattle, to prevent them from destroying the existing plants that you've put for the landscaping. So that is what is meant by the concept of protecting the existing the plants that you are trying to bring up for in your landscaped part of the site. So that said, let's see what other item that needs to be taken into consideration. So the type of triggered and the method of fixing. Yeah, I've just given you an example of, you can just use small trees to provide a guard or a small fencing for particular tree. Okay, so that one shall be enumerated. That is what the rule is telling us. So you give an enumeration. So protection, you describe the type of protection that is provided, and then you now type you can state you enumerate the number of trees that are going to receive that type of protection. Okay, then type of spray and rate of application. Then we also have type of wrapping and chemical application. So all those are different types of protection. Protect them maybe from let me say those items that can destroy them in terms of pests and so on, and also by means of spraying, so that you prevent them from getting destroyed. Okay, so there are other items that I told you at the onset that you'll need to take into consideration, and some of which are falling under different sections of the standard methods of measurements. So one of them is now the excavation and earthworks, which is very crucial. You will find that there is a lot of cutting and filling to make up the levels on which you are doing your landscaping. So those that are falling under different sections of measurements will be done, but then with respective sections in which they occur. One of them is now what we call the excavation and earthworks. In that case, you will just do it in terms of the section that we've covered and where it falls in terms of estimation. Then these are the bit. Of course, generally landscaping, you are talking about how to do your protection, for how you are going to promote the growth of these plants. Okay, just to show you again, you realize that for instance in this case you have a layer of grass planted alongside the soft landscape of this particular site. Okay, so in this case then you have to ensure that you as the landscaping specialist, you put in place measures that are going to promote the growth of those particular grass, for instance. So that also needs to be reflected in your measurements or in your estimation. How are you going to promote that? So that is why you have compost. Okay, can introduce compost, and then also you top up the topsoil in that case, and all that are going to be given in cubic meters. So what quantity of the compost is going to be applied? Is it fertilizer? Okay, fertilizer, I can see fertilizer and lime is given in kilograms, but then the topsoil and the compost shall be given in cubic meters. Okay, that is going to be applied evenly across the given area in which you're going to apply you're going to do your surfacing in terms of the grass or turfing and so on. So you realize that at the end of the day, you take into consideration all items that should be included in terms of estimation, and that is why the emphasis on you having the knowledge of how to do the work can't be emphasized enough. Okay, it can never be enough that you really need to have the knowledge in terms of how exactly these items are going to be done on site in the actual implementation, and that is when you are in better position to understand how you are going to do your estimation in that regard. Okay, So retaining structures and so on, and will also need to be included. Just also, I'll just use the other example that I'm applying to. So this site, it's an ongoing site, of course. You realize that it's on a steep ground, the ground that is from one end to the other. Okay, it's a steep ground. So on this site, for instance, then you need to do some retainers so that you prevent the soil from being swept away, of course, with heavy rains down the slope. So those are now other elements that are forming part of what we are covering. Okay, so retaining structures formed or filled gabions and boxes and mattresses, concrete, precast concrete, and so on shall be given in accordance with the relevant rules of trades. We've talked about different items there. You can have your retainer or retaining wall in concrete. If you do so, then you have to measure that under concrete works, which we've already covered. Okay, if you're doing it in a masonry wall, then you're going to check on the rules under masonry, which was done under walling. Okay, so in that case, you make your reference to the various aspects or the various components in which those sections are falling into. Yeah, just to mention that various elements under landscaping will be falling under different sections of the standard methods. And then because we've walked this through from the onset, from the first sections to now, we are almost exhausting everything. Then you need to know where each of them is falling and make a reference that this is I've encountered walling. How should I do it? You refer to the rule in which it's going to be applying. It's going to be applicable for that matter. Then lastly, under what we are covering today, that is the landscaping, I would like to talk about the irrigation systems. I've told you that landscaping, it's not only a matter of provision of those interesting grasses or plants that you are providing to attain that aesthetics. It also involves now the maintenance of whatever that you've put in place throughout the time. Okay, you need to put in place how you are going to do your maintenance, and that might even involve irrigation from the onset. How are the plants going to grow from day one until it's completed? Okay, so all that you have to consider now, the maintenance through other means, for instance irrigation. Okay, so normally those ones are also considered in our measurement. Okay, and then you can provide them as lump sums, for instance, that a maintenance of, for every month maintenance, for instance in irrigation, is going to be given this amount of money for every month for a period of say 6 months. Okay, so you give allowance for that in terms of lump sums, in terms of how they are going to maintain the whatever that you've put in place for the landscaping for a given period of time. So that said, that brings us to the end of the section of landscaping, which I believe has been exhaustive, and whatever that we've covered is now going to be implemented in actual basis in terms of how we are going to handle them as a matter of the actual estimations. So this is going to be so much interesting because we have that is going on in terms of the real time or the actual estimation. So we are going to put everything that we've described theoretically into perspective. How you as a quantity surveyor, you are now expected to take that into consideration and do your estimation in terms of landscaping. So that brings us to the end of landscaping, and I would like us to see what is coming next for our session today. Now, welcome to the second session, the second section that we plan to cover today, and that is on roadworks. So generally, we'd like to see how you handle roadworks. Of course, you bear in mind that basically these are not the standard methods of measurements is not covering the general civil works, but we are covering civil works associated with the builder's work in terms of these particular rules that are set for building estimation. So associated civil works in terms of, for instance, these road works that might occur as you are doing the builder's work in terms of your estimation. That is now what that is now the main focus for this particular section. So I'll just still rely on what I was trying to use to explain today. Those are the renders that are here. And one thing that you can see that you have, for instance, you have the roadworks in this case, or you can also refer to them as paving and so on. So in this case, these are also needed to be taken care of in terms of what you're covering. And in this case, then you have to also understand how you will go through them in terms of estimation for you as a quantity surveyor. So item 1, that as from the way you've realized that we pick on those items that we need to cover, we need to be going through in terms of the main points rather than going through every item in the sections. So what we're covering now are now the associated works with the road works within now the building construction that might occur. The associated, that is the keyword, because that is what our role is referring to. So we have excavations, filling bases, all those items, those that are falling within the different sections will always be measured according to the sections in which the relevant sections in which they occur. And if you talk about the relevant section, for instance, excavations will be falling under the excavations and earthworks. Okay, so in that case, those are the ones that you refer to. Okay, then you have concrete works. Also, you refer to concrete works. Okay, then we are now going to see the different components of the roads that are available, so that we see what is expected of you to do when you are doing your estimation as a quantity surveyor. So we just want to go through this presentation in bits so that we bring it into perspective, so that as we talk about an element, I'll be able to show you if you talk about this element, this is what it is and this is how it's measured, so that you have a more clearer imagination of what we are intending to do in terms of estimation. So let's get back to our book, our rules, so that we see what is going on. So roadworks has got various activities that occur in terms of what you are expected to, how you are expected to do your estimation. So what is covered here, we have items like surfacing done in square meters, okay, and so on. So of course you'll always do your classifications in terms of the various sections, or you can call them headings, in terms of what you need to cover. Okay, so nature of the base, treatment of the joints, preparatory work, and so on. All those activities which are now making up what you are going to do as in regard to the intended output for the roadworks need to be given in various headings. Okay, so works to curbs, channeling, edging, and all that should be done according to relevant trades. And as we had covered items like the curbs, and we noted that they are done in linear meters. So let's just see what curbs are, okay, what the channels are, the edging and channeling and so on. So let's see what they are and how, of course. So we said done in linear meters. So you can see from the presentation there is now that demarcation between the road surface and then now to the other side of the drainage. Okay, so the immediate one where you have you can see there is that precast concrete, the one that the cursor is moving on, that is now the road curb. So the road curb, you do it in linear meters. Okay, so you'll notice that you have it along all that road. So once you have your drawing in terms of the road and the plan how it's going to be done, then you simply need to know how the length is running. So once you have that length, and of course you'll make your description in terms of how it's going to be done, and the specifications of that particular curb. But then the underlying rule is that you need to do that in linear meters. So have your plan as usual, interpret it well, see how the extent in which the curb is going to be laid, and then you do that in linear meters, in as much as estimation of the road curbs is concerned. So that is said. Then you have the channels. Channels also, you'll do them in linear meters. Okay. Then others, for instance, you have block drains and so on that are going to form the drainage alongside the road. So all those, the rules are providing. So whatever is showing now, those are basically now the surfaces of the road. And you can see, before you now come to bring in the tarmac and the preparation of the final surface, then you have, road has got different surfaces. You have like sub base, you have the base, and so on. Okay, so that general procedure of preparation of the road. So in that case, you have now the hardcore that is laid in that case. So for the hardcore, you will also have to do it in you can do it in square meters, or depending on the thickness of that particular hardcore, because that is what the rule is stating. But then these are now hand packed. You can see they have already been broken down into smaller pieces, then they are packed on the road. Okay, then from there you now have to do, you can now bring the stone duster to fill in the gaps in that case. So we can call it that blinding. So of course, now after blinding, you also need to do it also, you can do it in square meters. Let's do our reference and also see what is so we said the curbs. Now we talked about the curbs, and I have also shown you how that is what that is looking like and how that is done. And we have others like which one else? Yeah, so let's see what next. Okay, of course I've talked about the surface. I also wanted to show you on the inverted block drains. Let me just yeah, you can see from the to the extreme end also where my cursor. Okay, the flat slabs at the top. We have the flat slabs at the top, also done in linear meters, and you also have the inverted block drains. Okay, the one that are laid, and then you now fill in with the mass concrete, so that you have a smooth running surface where the drainage is going to take place for this particular road. So you have all that, and as usual, I always intend to show it to you in a manner that you are always able to see what I'm talking about, and of course explain to you the theoretical basis in terms of how you do your estimation. So thereafter, then we'll now come and handle those works in specifics in terms of the actual one-on-one ways in which you handle that in terms of estimation. So you just take time, appreciate now how that is looking like and how that is done before we move to the next bit of estimation. So yeah, I talked about the inverted block drain. So these are the ones that we have, and of course I've told you that you also do it in linear meters. You just need to identify what they are and how you go about them in terms of estimation. Okay, so that said, we'd like us to go to the next element that we need to cover under roadworks. So the next one that we can talk about here is yes, I talked about the gravel, maram, and paving done in square meters. So you can see from the rule that that is what and how you should go about it. So of course you will always have a running length of the extent in which you want to implement your item of road finishing or road works in general. You have your running length, and of course you have the width. So extract that, get the square meters, and measure what you have in terms of the maram and graveling, and of course price it to get the projected estimate of conducting those works. Okay, so we have these other ones: interlocking bricks, concrete block, roads, pavings, and so on, also done in square meters. So of course now these ones they entail now when you have, I can look at what I've just highlighted. Now when you have the final the roads, okay, they are now the final finish that you can have in terms of interlocking bricks. Okay, you can have concrete block, roads, and so on. So all that are done in square meters, of course under specific headings according to that rule. Okay, yeah, we've talked about the curbs, channeling, edging being done in linear meters, and that is quite in-depth in terms of our explanation. Then finally for our explanation today, we'd like us to talk about now you can have items like, okay, there is one that we have road signs and so on. These are signs. When you have, for example, you can have demarcations for the road in terms of the bollards. Now bollards are those barriers that are used to demarcate how the extent of, basically to control the movement. But then they can also be the signages. So in terms of signages, they can be measured in also as can provide lump sum figures to cater for that, or it can be done in terms of numbers and so on. Then okay, gabions, we talked about them in under landscaping. Then finally, I would like us to talk about paintworks. You know that even in the roads there will be paintworks in terms of the ones that are demarcating the lanes and so on. So those ones are they should be done in terms of you can do them in square meters. So we'll come also to see from the bills of quantities now the specific sections that are talking about those particular marks of painting and decorations. You can paint those bollards as well, just to provide reflection, or reflection especially when driving at night and so on, so that you have a clearly demarcated approach on how you need to move, or you need to, just for safety generally for that, and orderliness if you'd wish to say that as well. So those ones I've told you that you can have the yellow markings, the white markings, and so on. So you need to know how you go about that and how those ones are done. So of course you've seen, depending on which part of the world you are in, then you've seen you have the road in terms of the demarcations can be having yellow paint marks or the white paint marks and so on. So you see that, then you know that it's falling under roadworks. This is also a section in the standard methods of measurements and so on. So that's being said, we need to now see what we have next. All right, so I believe that should bring us to our final coverage for this session today, where we were just covering landscaping. We are also covering what we call we've covered landscaping, and now we've finalized with the roadworks, and that should be sufficient for those sections. And of course there need not to be cause of alarm, because as we go on we are going to cover more and more of how these items are done, so that we have it more in a way that you will understand it better, how they are done on site, and then now how they are also estimated. So I want to say a very heartfelt word of gratitude. I want to say thank you so much for always watching these videos and also being able to learn from them. So as I finish, I want to urge you to please make a subscription, so that whenever these videos and the teachings are dropped here, you are always kept on the loop, you are always informed. And thank you so much. Please make a subscription to this channel so that we grow together as we go on.